This is a nightmare for Donald Trump. It's a nightmare. To be charged with these charges in front of a DC jury, which is the number one takeaway, I think, for all of your audience members. He's going before a DC jury. I mean, I think that DC went 97% for Joe Biden. You won't be able to find someone in the jury pool who's not wearing a mask and a vote sticker. It's going to be an absolute nightmare to try to find any sort of a jury that would be open-minded to Donald Trump's innocence. And on this is the holy grail for Democrats outside of DC, never mind in DC. And you're going to have a judge who's going to be a Democrat appointed judge, and you're going to have a prosecutor who's already out to get him, and you're going to have a case that's going to move swiftly and that could actually get tried before November of 2024. So the odds of conviction, this is without, you don't have to know anything about the law. You don't have to know anything about anything to know that it's going to move quickly and that they're almost overwhelmingly going to vote to convict him. He's going to try to remove it from DC. Good luck with that. So I am concerned for him because this is a very novel use of these statutes. But the feds don't normally indict you unless they believe they can get you. And they're throwing everything they have at this man.
So there's also a lot of stuff that just happened in plain sight about things that we knew were taking place, things that were being said at the time, things like, and while that's not part of the charging, literally hopping on the phone and ringing around to try to find different votes. Part of the whole plan was that on January the 6th, the vice president was in a position to be able to say, well, the slate of electors and the electoral college, that's the 270 electoral votes, they are of course represented by all those different states in the United States, that put simply, there was the ones that were offered up that said Joe Biden won and the ones that were offered up to say that Donald Trump won. Now, it seems that of these charges, that whole process of trying to find anyone other than Joe Biden won this state, that act in and of itself has been deemed to be one of the things they're going after, correct?
Correct. But if you look back at when Donald Trump won in 2016, half the media and Hillary Clinton's supporters and some of her team members were submitting that she should be doing exactly this, that there's no way he could have possibly won, that the Russians had interfered with the election, and that she needed to get an alternate set of electors prepared so that they could be certified on election day. Now, it didn't happen, and it didn't happen in the Trump case either. No one tried to criminalize that push. In fact, all of the MSNBC anchors who are now celebrating this indictment against Donald Trump and how right Jack Smith is and how wrong the fake elector slate was, were behind it. Go back and look at Chris Hayes. He in particular was tweeting about how we needed another slate of electors for Hillary Clinton to submit. This was not a new idea. It was not, oh, geez, Donald Trump just dreamed up this cockamamie idea. This is what losing parties have lamented about and thought, geez, maybe we can do this because, it's not over till it's over. But that didn't actually happen on January 6th. And to try to criminalize his idea that it could happen, to me, seems absurd. The rest of the indictment is all about how he lost and he knew he lost. He said the votes were off in Michigan and Arizona and Georgia, and he knew that they weren't off. Good luck proving that. The evidence that he knew, which is what you have to prove in a fraud case, is that he was told. As I read the indictment, it's his lawyer told him this. The Department of Justice told him this. The state of Michigan told him this. Therefore, he knew. That is not necessarily ball game. Does anyone at the Justice Department take 1 minute to understand who Donald Trump is? Does anyone really believe Trump believes he lost? I don't believe that. I believe Donald Trump is, like a lot of presidents, a narcissistic guy who was not able to comprehend that he actually might have lost these states and believed his own head and believed, they don't mention, as far as I have seen, like Sidney Powell, who was telling him he didn't lose, who was telling him these things. We forget this because we now know but Sidney Powell went into this thing a very well-respected appellate lawyer. When I saw her saying the Kraken's going to be unleashed, Dominion, Smartmatic, all this stuff, I thought, all right, it sounds crazy, but let's listen, because she's not a nutcase. She's got an amazing record of success and she's very well respected. So he's going to go in there. He's going to say reliance on the advice of counsel. And here's the alternative information I was provided. I just think legally in any other case, Jack Smith would have an uphill battle on this stuff, Paul. But it being DC with a DC jury, he's in real trouble.
So that's important for people to know here, where they don't even really have to start to get into the reads. Whatever the case the government is going to put up is going to be believed before a word is said, and any and everything that Donald Trump will offer as a defence will be dismissed. That's the starting point for a jury. So again, this is a multi-million-dollar question that will take months probably to get to the final answer. But how do you possibly defend against a stacked deck like that for the things that, okay, there's smoking guns you can't defend, but then there's sort of, the dots that are so close together, but it's not proven that they're close together. How does he defend himself in this one?
Normally, and I'm sure we'll see this in this case, you'd have the lawyers go in there and on motion practice before the judge say, these statutes do not even arguably fit this alleged crime. That they're using, statutes after Reconstruction and trying to shoehorn a president who didn't believe he lost and his behavior into them. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit. But you're never going to win motion practice in front of, undoubtedly, it's going to be a left-leaning judge who lives in D.C., who does not want to disappoint the D.C. constituents. So at every turn, he's up against the politics of the matter. The biggest victory in this case for him would be if he could somehow manage to remove the case, get it moved outside of Washington, D.C., to where he could possibly find a more fair and balanced jury. But honestly, Paul, at this point, if you're Trump, number one, you have to try to use the bully pulpit to get to the jury pool, to get out on every television station how Hillary Clinton wanted to do this too, how all these news anchors wanted the same exact stuff to be done, how he was told by lawyers that these were legitimate legal strategies, try to get in their heads, because a lot of that may or may not come in at trial. And secondly, you know what he needs more than anything? He needs himself or another Republican to win, because we're still in federal court. The charges could still be pardoned. And so if he wins, there's a debate in the legal community about whether one can pardon oneself. I believe he can. And so he could pardon himself on this charge and the Mar-a-Lago's charges. Those are all federal cases. Georgia, different story. That one hasn't been brought yet, but is likely to be. And that one could be a whole other sticky wicket because it's not pardonable and it would involve potential jail time. The New York case would not. So this is what Trump's looking at right now. He's got to pull an inside straight.